Hi friends, I'm Coley, this is Sweet Peaches Nutrition, and today I've got a delicious dairy-free manicotti recipe for you. So this came about when my sister asked for stuffed shells for her birthday, and they looked so good, and I was like, what can we stuff like in the same way that would be gluten-free? And my mom was like, oh my gosh, yes, I used to get manicotti, it was so good, and I was like, hold up, this will work because we can buy gluten-free lasagna sheets. I got ours from Taste Republic. I'll leave the link down below. They're really good. And then roll them up to make our own. Essentially, we're making Italian enchiladas. Anyway, so we have a dairy-free almond-based ricotta filling. We're gonna use gluten-free lasagna sheets and then make a simple tomato sauce to put on top. And it turns out so good. Okay, so first we're going to prep the almond ricotta filling. So I'm starting out with some almond flour. So if you don't have almond flour, you can grind your own almonds in like a blender or a food processor, and you want to stop when it gets to like a powdery substance and not a paste and make almond butter. Or you can buy almond flour at the store, whatever is easier for you. And then we're going to add in some non-dairy milk. I'm using oat milk, but you can add whatever you have. You just want to make sure that it's not like vanilla flavored or anything. And then we're going to add some lemon juice for acidity, give this a little flavor, and some garlic powder. So we're starting pretty basic here because honestly, ricotta doesn't really have that much flavor, besides kind of like creamy and salty. So I'm just adding salt, pepper, and garlic powder, but if you want to add some more flavor to your filling, go ahead. And then we're just going to stir to combine. So it might seem like it's going to not come together at first, but we don't want it too damp, so just keep mixing and eventually that will be enough liquid to make a kind of crumbly paste that resembles ricotta. But if yours really is too dry and isn't coming together, you can always add a splash more milk. But you can see that it really does turn to be kind of that like chunky, sticky texture of ricotta. And once it's mixed, we are going to make our own piping bag with a Ziploc bag. So if you have a piping bag, you can absolutely use that. But if you don't worry, you're just going to want to grab a Ziploc bag and point one of the corners downward and wrap it around your hand to direct the filling down into one side. Obviously, a piping bag is designed to only have one point, and a Ziploc bag has two, so you kind of have to squish it down to one side, but it totally works as like a little hack, and it will make it so much easier to be able to cut the tip and pipe it out than to try to like spoon and spread it into the noodles later. So once we've done that, we can push it down towards the tip, and you want to twist the top so that whenever you get to the squeezing part, you don't squeeze it out the top. And then we're going to set it aside until we're ready to fill our pasta. Okay, so now we need to prep our sauce. Of course, you could just use pasta sauce straight out of a can or a jar, and that totally works too, but we're going to spice ours up a little bit. So first, I'm starting with a neutral oil like avocado or olive oil in my pan and adding in some diced shallots. Shallots add a really nice sweet flavor, but you could use any onion you have. And then once they're translucent, you want to add in some garlic as well. So you don't want to add garlic at the same time as your onions because garlic cooks quicker and it'll burn. So wait till your onions start to look a little bit translucent and like they've softened before you add your garlic. And then once your garlic smells fragrant, you're ready to move on to the next step. So I'm just using a jar of sauce from the store, and I'm going to add my own extra twist on it. You could also use a can of crushed tomatoes, but this one already has basil and some flavor in it, so just skipping a step and speeding up the process a little bit. Next up, we're going to add in some red wine. So I really like adding red wine to pasta sauce because it gives it a really nice deep flavor and tastes fancy like it's from a restaurant. You can definitely skip this step if you don't have any, or if you don't consume any alcohol, or you can sub in some balsamic vinegar for a little bit more of that acidity. And you don't need to use anything fancy. You can use cheap Trader Joe's wine like I do. And then you're going to want to add in salt and pepper. Very important to add it, taste it, and add some more. This is for your taste preferences. there's not really any point in measuring out salt and pepper. Add some, taste it, and add some more until it tastes good for you. All right, now you can see we have a nice little simmer going. Our flavors have combined, and I'm going to add a little bit more basil just because I love basil. I love this brand. They're like half dried herbs, so they still retain that like fresh herb flavor, but they last in your fridge longer. So I'm just going to sprinkle those in and then remove it from the heat because we don't want to cook the basil into oblivion. You really just want to add it as the final step and get those nice aromatic flavors. Okay, you could leave your sauce like this. Again, it's a delicious sauce, but I just want to keep bulking it up a little bit and make it a little bit more hearty. So I'm adding some frozen spinach. Frozen spinach is great because you don't have to worry about going bad. It can just chill out in your freezer and it really rehydrates and warms up just like spinach that's fresh would, because when you cook fresh spinach, it gets all wilted down anyway. So I'm going to add in some spinach for some extra greens, some extra flavor, and then also going to add in some mushrooms. I'm adding in some mushrooms that are already cooked because it's a vegetable that I commonly meal prep and will just have a big container already in my fridge. If yours aren't cooked and you want to do this one pan, no big deal. Just throw in some uncooked slices, put the heat on low, and put a lid on, and they'll cook down. Or use whatever you have in your pantry. This sauce is super versatile, and you know, there's no rules. So now it is looking good, and we are ready to set this aside until it's time to assemble our manicotti. Okay, so to assemble, honestly, an 8x8 pan is perfect for this. So if you have one, I recommend it. Otherwise, you can make your noodles fit into another size. So I'm going to take about half of the sauce and put it in the bottom of the pan. So I want to completely cover the pan because this is going to be what helps the noodles cook in the oven and also just make sure everything is nice and coated in sauce and flavor. So just eyeballing it, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to cover the base and make a nice little bed for the noodles to sit. Okay, and now it is time to assemble our manicotti. So like I said, I'm using these Taste Republic lasagna sheets, and I'm just going to take them out, and you're also going to want a bowl of water to seal the corner to dip your finger in. So I'm taking a piece and I'm going to go across the long side of the noodle and um, yeah, just put it in frame, please. So I'm going to move the noodle into frame so you can actually see what I'm doing. And like I said, you're going to grab the Ziploc bag like a pastry bag and then just pipe across. And I realized that I didn't cut my hole that big, and so I decided to do 2 lines across, and then you're just going to roll the noodle up. It's not as fragile as you think, and then when you get to the end, just run your finger with some water across it and push down, and that'll seal the noodle. And then I'm going to put it seam side down into the container so that it doesn't start to unravel, and it'll just make sure that it stays nice. And so now we're just going to repeat the process using all of the ricotta filling that we have. Worst case, if you start to run out of filling, you can whip up some more, but should be good. All these recipes, are a little bit of a guessing game of trying to get your ingredients right and trying to figure out just how much to put into the manicotti. I started to realize that I was being a little too skimpy with my piping, and so I started to go on a little thicker because obviously you want them to be full and flavorful. So just kind of see how it's going, and about 6 noodles fit across the 8x8 pan for me. Okay, so once you use up all the last bits of the filling in your last noodle, then you are good to go. So you're going to have a layer of noodles, and then you're going to spoon the rest of the sauce on top. I went for a little like dramatic look and just spooned it down the middle of the noodles, and then bake, and you are good to go. That is a delicious meal. It actually reheats surprisingly well, so you can definitely make this ahead and keep it in the fridge, and it looks super fancy, but really it doesn't take that much effort at all, and it's a great dish to serve for dinner. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Penny's no fool. She knows I'm a sloppy bitch who always drops stuff while I'm cooking.